Hi there, this is Ikra Barless. I'm in Psych 2316 and this is my final exam. So for this project, I chose the theoretical perspective of motives and personality, which is in the intrapsychic domain, this part of this perspective is also in the dispositional domain, which is one of the first perspectives we saw. Basically, motives and personality helps us understand why basically we are the way that we are. It explains our behaviors, our thoughts, and our actions. So for motivation, there are three main needs, being need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for intimacy. And for me, what jumped off the page right away was the need for intimacy. I've always been, I'll say, kind of needy. But I do understand boundaries and space, of course. So for myself, I think it began with my family. So my family was never one to be openly loving or say I love you or, hug and kiss. And for me, I always needed that. So luckily my mother was very warm, she was very nurturing. But for my father, I think that was kind of hard because his parents, he didn't get that from his parents. So the need for motivation, the motivation and the need for intimacy. Someone who's high in NINT, the need for intimacy, they're very, they think about relationships several times a day. They'll start conversations, they laugh, they talk. They seem extroverted, but it's a little different than someone who's extroverted. Let's see. Yeah, they're happier around other people, and I would say these describe me very well. I've always been one to form friendships very easily. I am pretty extroverted, I will say. In school, I'll talk to anyone, there's no cool people or not cool people in my head. If I think you're an interesting person, I'll start a conversation. I also maintain really close friendships. So one of the examples I put in my essay was that I have a friend I met in grade 8, and the only reason we began talking was because she had blue eyeshadow on, and I thought that was so cool. So me and this friend, her name is Joanna, we've been inseparable since grade 8. I moved to Texas about 3 years ago, and it was kind of hard to maintain that close friendship because obviously Texas is very far from where I used to live, Canada. But it's very important to me to maintain that friendship. So we have come up with the solution. We FaceTime monthly, we text, and basically that was one of my closest friendships. And I've had a few more since then who I've also maintained because it's very important to me to have that close relationship, even though we're not physically presently close. And as for relationships, I have also, I've always been looking for that one person, but both of my relationships happen pretty naturally. I would say the need for intimacy for me motivated me to always want to be close to them, to want to give gifts, to want to hug and kiss. That's very much my love language, is giving. Obviously it's nice to receive, but I love to give, and I love to make my partner feel loved and appreciated. And I think that's part of my need for intimacy, is to give that back in a certain way, because I think that if you give that to someone, it'll be reciprocated. So unfortunately, in my first relationship, he was undiagnosed bipolar, and me and his roommates kind of figured. We were in psychology, actually, and we were learning about all of those disorders that we learned about in this class as well, and it was just jumping off the page, and all the symptoms he had. He was up and down. His highs were so high, and his lows were, you couldn't get him out of bed for days. So I believe that comes from my need for intimacy, is I give that to other people. I gave him a lot, everything, pretty much everything I had. I was very young. And it just didn't work out. He needed to fix himself. And I think part of my motivation was that I thought I could fix him. I'm not really sure, but come a long way since then. And that is actually mentioned in the book, The Other 99 Times, Train Your Mind to Enjoy Serenity, which is an amazing book. And I thought it was very cool that you, Professor Sawyer, were mentioned in it. That was like an aha moment. You were that lady, which is really cool. And he mentioned the best love gets stronger with each struggle. You mature with that kind of love. You learn how to accept, endure, compromise, and maintain. And that was page 60. And so I believe that the motivation to pursue this love and to get through each struggle comes from the need for intimacy. You know, you want to maintain that the good in the relationship. So even though you have to endure a lot of bad stuff, I think the want to push through it all comes from the need for intimacy. And I'm really lucky that I now have a partner who I think also, from the three needs, the need for achievement, need for power, and need for intimacy, he also shares the need for intimacy. He's very high in that. We both love being together a lot. We can't be apart very much. We both have friends and stuff outside of the relationship, which is, I think, a really positive thing, to not be stuck with each other. And as Wallace mentioned, you're going to struggle, but it's going to make you stronger and it's going to make you better. And we did go through a patch where we were bickering, every little thing was getting in our way, and we had to think, are we going to let this defeat us, you know, or are we going to try and find a way to overcome this? And we did, thankfully. We're very happy now because we've learned how to de-escalate arguments and how to kind of figure, okay, this is not worth it. I don't have to be right all the time. And the book actually was really eye-opening. I read it really fast because I wanted to read the next page. It was very interesting. And he brought up a lot of good points. One that kind of stood out to me was when he was discussing, I believe it was when you're watching everything come down around you and you stop and realize that it's because of you. So kind of holding accountability for your actions. And I think that is true to relationships as well. You know, when you're having issues with your significant other, you have to realize, like, to stop and hold yourself accountable, which I think is very important. And I think the way it affected my personality is that I think it kind of made me calm down. And in the current moment, I'm having a lot of issues with my roommate, but I think it kind of made me realize, hey, okay, this is bad. But think about all the times that have been good. Think about all the good that I still have, despite having this major issue in my life. And that can be applied to my relationship. That can be applied to work. And I think the book just kind of tells you to slow down, think it through, think about everything else you have good in life, and not give your energy to the negative. Because I think it's honestly quite draining to just focus on the negative all the time. I think it's stressful for your body. I think it's stressful emotionally, and yeah, it can take a toll. So that was my paper. This was my video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your summer. Thanks, Professor Sawyer.